back in the woods.
Morning guys, Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School, back out here at the Pathfinder School property for another series of videos in our modern trapping segment. Today what we're going to talk about is how to bed your traps, how to bed a double long spring trap and how to bed a coil spring trap. Bedding your trap is very, very important. Once you've decided your set location and what type of set you're going to make, you have to be able to bed that trap. So we're going to talk about that first, then we'll move on to the other things. I have over 4,000 acres at the Pathfinder School now, and we have a large wilderness area behind us that we're going to go through, and we're going to scout for trapping locations. We're going to videotape all of that, show you how to scout, show you good locations for trapping, show you good sets and all of those things, and make a long series out of this modern trapping series. But we've got to get the basics covered first, and part of our basics for upland sets for things like fox, coyote, raccoon, and what have you is getting a good trap bed. So we're going to talk about that today. Stay with me. Okay guys, there's a little bit of a dirt mound here beside me on the corner of a wooded area, and there's another wooded area like a wooded island right beside that. The area out here at the Pathfinder School is very, very good for hunting and trapping because it has quite a few open fields in the front acreage that are split up and boxed in by different wood lines. And edges are always good places to trap, and throughways that go across from edge to edge are always great place to trap as well. So there's a little dirt mound out here we're going to use that is right outside this edge in a crossway. We'll bed up a trap right here, and we'll bed up a long spring and a coil spring and show you how that's done. So let's talk about tools first. There's a couple tools that you're going to want to have. The first thing you're going to want is some type of heavy duty hammer that's got a chiseling device on the back for digging your hole and pounding your stakes. This one happens to have a shovel on the other end. This is called the groundhog tool. We do sell these on our website. I used this all through the Trappers College, and I was very, very pleased with its performance. It's very good at pounding stakes, great for digging trap beds, and you can even dig your dirt hole with it or your cubby with it as well. The other tool that I do carry is I carry a dirt hole digger. Basically, it's just a piece of pipe that's been cut out so that you can drive it into the ground to dig your dirt hole in front of your trap set, which we'll talk about more when we get into different types of sets. Beyond that, you're going to want a sifting device to sift dirt back over your trap to camouflage it, to make it look more natural. And we'll talk about that when we're bedding our trap as well. And then I've got just a bag of sheep's wool here. You could use any kind of cattail down or anything like that that will hold your scent. You're going to put that in the dirt hole or pin it to the ground. We'll talk about that as well later on in this series. I've got coyote, coon, bobcat, and mink bait in here. And then I've got some latex pan covers that go over the top of your pan to keep it operating and keep it from getting dirt underneath it so that it can't operate. And I'll explain those things to you as we go. So what we're going to do first is we're first going to use a coil spring type trap. This is a number 1.5 or a number 1 Victor coil spring. Very small. This would be for something like raccoons, fox, things like that. It's got a double swivel point at the bottom that you can stake. I don't have any stakes today, but bear in mind that every one of these traps would have 2 stakes in the ground. In these stake points below it, that would be below the dirt underneath the trap, it would be staked 2 feet in 2 different locations so that that trap couldn't be taken away, drug off, and the animal wouldn't escape with a trap around his foot. Okay, so let's get after it. I'll get a close-up of this. Okay, so we've got our location picked out, and it's just a mound of dirt right here. And we're going to dig ourselves a trap bed. And this trap bed, some grass below this, that's fine. This trap bed needs to be big enough that we can put our chain, deep enough that we can put our chain down inside of it and cover that up and still have our trap up at the top. We don't want our trap buried, we want it right on the surface. I'll get all this grass and stuff out of my way here. Okay, now, so we would take this chain and we would stake this with double stakes, pound those stakes into the ground, and then, I'll shove this down in the dirt just a little bit, we would set our trap. And we'll set our trap out here on the outside. And remember what I said, as long as you're holding that strong jaw, you're in good shape. We'll drop that over the top, hold on to our trap frame, and set our pan. Okay. Now we'll reach up through the trap frame, move our weak jaw, make sure that we're nice and level. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Now we're always going to put the dog toward the front of our set. When I mean the front of our set, it means where we're going to put our attractant point. Okay? So we'll get that chain buried down in there. And again, we're not going to be very far off the surface once we get done with this. We're going to pack this in real tight, just like this. Then we're going to come over the top with our trap, and we're going to push that thing down into the dirt real good. Move it around a couple times, just like that. Make sure that no dirt at this point gets under your pan. Now you want to pack a little bit of dirt around that trap. You can move that weak spring. Again, make sure that there's nothing getting under your trap. When you're all said and done with this, and this trap is bedded properly, you're not going to want it to move. You're not going to keep this trap or make this trap not operate. Don't worry about that. But you want that thing bedded in there tight because you don't want him to walk up and step on this trap and it rocks. Because if it rocks in the dirt when he steps on it, he's much more likely just to dig this trap up out of curiosity for what it is than he is to step on your pan or check out your attractant. You can see it's still moving around a little bit. We want to bed that thing really tight. And you can see that that pan's almost level. With the ground. That's okay. But I want to make sure I don't get anything underneath it that can make it not operate. Okay. That's not too bad. And you'll get to where you can do this in a very short amount of time, like 5 minutes or less, when you get used to doing it. I'm taking a little bit more time here now. You see, I'm going to take a stick and rake underneath that pan, just to make sure I don't have anything under there. And your pan tension that we talked about before should allow you to do stuff like this without setting that trap off pretty easy. Now what we're going to do is, we're going to take one of our pieces of latex covering, and at this point, we're going to cover our pan, just like this. Now we could have pinched this underneath our weak jaw if we wanted to. It wouldn't have really mattered too much. But this is just going to allow us to cover this trap up and not get anything on the trap itself or under the pan. So now, we're going to take our dirt sifter here. And we're going to sift dirt right over the top of this thing, just like this. Now what I like to do here is blow the dirt off my pan, just like that, so that I know exactly where that pan is, because that pan is going to decide the orientation of everything else, and I want that pan to be the lowest point in this trap, because I want that animal to comfortably step down on top of it and commit his weight to that trap. So that will be the last thing I'll cover up. So in this example, real quick, if I were going to dig a dirt hole, I would do it right out here in front of the trap, and we'll talk about offset and things like that later. Right now we're just talking about bedding the trap. Then I would build a berm around it to force him in to this location so that there's only one place he can comfortably put his foot, and it's on my pan. And when I'm all done with that, and again, we'll cover that in another video, I'm going to cover up this pan with just enough dirt that the wind's not going to blow and expose my piece of latex. Okay, so once we have our trap bedded properly, it should not move when we push around it. and on the ground. Now I know that my bed or my pad or my trip pan is right here because it's in the lowest spot in the middle. Exactly what I want to happen when that animal steps on that pan and commits his weight. Okay, so that is a coil spring. Let's talk about a double long spring. They're a little bit different. Okay, we'll use this same bed. We'll dig the dirt back out of it here. We're going to dig it just a little bit bigger this time because we've got a double long spring that we're going to use. Now, same story. We would take our chain, stake it down and bury it. Before we do that, we'll go ahead and set this trap. We'll break it down. We'll get it where we want it. We'll level out our pan. And we'll set that to the side for a minute. Now we would put our chain in, double stake, bury the chain. Now, to get this weak jaw to drop all the way down, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to fold these springs forward. That changes the game a little bit when you're bedding a trap, because now you need a lot bigger trap bed. Now I need something this size, and I've got to secure that in the ground, and that's going to be a lot harder to get secured in the ground than our coil spring was. You've almost got to dig areas out for this thing, but keep a flat area for the pan and dig out for the springs. And we can put those springs right to the front like that. Let's get our weak jaw up in the air and out of the way for a minute. The one good thing about these is that they will tend to be more stable because you have those legs on there. So even if this trap's not perfectly bedded in the ground underneath, it's still not going to rock around on you because it's got those legs on it right there to hold it down, those springs. Now I'm going to lift my weak jaw up before I bed this trap all the way in. And I'm going to go ahead and cover my pan just like this. And like I said, that's going to keep stuff from getting inside and underneath my pan when I'm putting dirt in there, because I got quite a bit of space I've got to fill. And then I'm going to come around the outside here and pack this thing in just like I did with the coil spring. There we go. Get the heavier chunks out of there. We don't want them in there. Okay, now we're ready to go back to sifting dirt over the top, just like this, to make it look natural. And then, again, I want to find my pan, because that pan is what I want to be the lowest area in that set. And by blowing straight into the middle of it, I've built a crater right there, or a little bit of a mound. And then I'm going to cover that with some dirt. Again, just to make sure that nothing blows it off of there, or a little bit of rain's not going to affect anything. And I want that, again, to be the lowest area of my set. We'll talk about the different sets later on. Right now, what I wanted to show you was how to bed the trap. So anything that was higher than that, we'd get out of our way. And we want the lowest area of this set to be right there where the pan is. Again, as soon as he touches it and commits his weight, he's going to be in your trap. So that is how to bed a double long spring type trap. All right, guys, I'm Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me for this quick video on how to bed traps, and it really is a very, very important step to learning how to trap is understanding how to properly bed those traps. Until you've seen a couple sets that have been dug up and the trap's just flipped upside down, it's not set off, you really don't understand how easy it is for that animal to step on it, feel that unsecure ground because your trap moved under his foot, and then he gets curious. What was that? And he starts digging it up. And it's very seldom he's just going to dig it up from the middle. and stick his foot in the pan. He's going to dig it up from whatever moved. And the edge is what's going to move, and that's where he's going to put his claws in and pop your trap right up out of the ground. So it's a very important step to understand. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thank you very much for your views, for your support, for all the comments that you make and everything that you do for me, for my school, and for my family. I'll be back with another video as soon as possible.